And welcome to the Pleasant Street Podcast with your host, Taylor Nissi. Taylor, I'm welcoming listeners to your podcast, but I need to welcome you to your podcast because, well, this is your first one. This is the inaugural podcast. And this is the one where we get to find out about you, who you are, why you do what you do. And it's a way of introducing yourself to potential clients and maybe people who've been listening at this point for 4 or 5 podcasts and are thinking, who is this guy? I need to find out more about him. So welcome, everybody. This is where we learn about Taylor. And Taylor, it's good to have you. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, great to see you, Bill. Thanks for having me.
No, it's good. I'm excited for this podcast because you come to this podcast with a little bit of background, which is nice. And I want you to talk a little bit about that background, if you will. I mean, how did you make the decision to get into being in the financial advising business? I mean, this was something you grew up wanting to do, or how did you get here?
It's a great question, and it was not a straight line path. So I was an athlete in high school and college and went to a great school, probably one that was a stretch academically, but with athletics, it worked out well.
Perfect.
And on campus, I was an economics major, and I was also a geology major, and I was playing sports and busy and active with all that stuff. And, when I graduated, I didn't really have a plan. And I, continued to pursue the athletics. I played semi-pro lacrosse abroad in Australia. And then I really kind of fell into coaching when I returned. And through the coaching athletes, I developed a real passion and realized that what I liked to do the most was just help people accomplish their goals. And after, many years, probably 5 years of running one of the nation's largest lacrosse camp education companies, we were doing 250 camps in 36 different states.
Wow.
I was coaching back locally in Connecticut where I lived at the time. And it was just a lot of coaching. And I realized that, I loved the coaching. I loved helping people, but, I was getting a little burnt out with lacrosse. And in the community that I lived in, and also my father is in this business, when I decided that I was done coaching, I took some time off and had some great mentors reach out, say, hey, have you ever thought about becoming an advisor? And my father was an advisor. So he, kind of called me every day saying, all right, what are you going to do? You had some success with the lacrosse thing, but now what are you going to do? And so through that, I set up a bunch of lunches, had some great conversations with some great people who became mentors. And, the conversations were all kind of the same. Taylor, we think you'd probably be good at it, but there's a real big learning curve. So you're going to have to commit to the process. And if you do, we'll support you. And that's kind of what launched it all.
Great. And I have to ask you, because of that background and where you are now, what is it that you took away from athletics? What is it you took away from the sport of lacrosse that you keep today that has served you? What are the values, if you will, the principles, as it were, that you took away from those experiences that benefit you today?
Sure. I think as an athlete, right, there's that old adage, hard work can beat skill or natural talent.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of what I bring to the table here for my clients. When I started this business, there was a lot of people my age who had been in it for years. And I always kind of had a chip on my shoulder that I was behind. I needed to catch up. So I got my CFP, I'm a certified exit planning advisor. So I continue to pursue, the education and keep up to date and don't just get comfortable now that I've built a business that, is reasonably successful. But I continue to sort of challenge myself to learn something new every year. I challenge myself to try, and my team, to try to provide a deeper level of service every year and try to keep iterating and not just, rest on our laurels to a certain extent. And I think that's something that is really part of what I brought from athletics into this business.
So who is your ideal client that you work with now?
My ideal client now is a growth-oriented entrepreneur or a high-achieving executive. Typically, they also have equity compensation. Mm-hmm. We have a really nice integrated tax planning offering, so that really helps those two people that have complicated tax choices to make, whether you own a business or if you're exercising a lot of equity compensation. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. And when I say growth-minded, I don't mean just someone who's growing a business or trying to grow their income, but we also like to kind of look at the whole person, and we're interested in people that are interested in becoming better humans and being the best human that they can be, to however that aligns with their values and their personal mission.
That is interesting because well, let's suggest a couple of things. One of which comes to my mind is that it sounds like you have kind of an individualized approach, meaning that when you work with clients, one client is not like another. And it leads me to the question about what sets you apart. You sort of touched on this a little bit, but if someone were to ask you what sets you apart from other financial advisors and other groups, give us a good answer.
Sure. Yeah. So to give you that answer, I also want to give you a little history. So I started out in this business, like I said, with those great mentors, working at a wirehouse, one of those big institutions, and coming from coaching into financial advisory, I kept kind of running into this small conflict. The firm I was working at didn't want us to talk about taxes with our clients, and to me, that doesn't make sense, right? Taxes touch every part of your life. So after a short period of time, kind of realized that there was a big, conflict, right, between what the mission was at the firm versus what I believed was the right way to deliver this service. So that led to me leaving and my father leaving Morgan Stanley and us starting Pleasant Street Wealth Advisors. So I think what sets us apart is really that approach, right? We've always been focused on meeting our clients where they are, again, talking about tax quite a bit, but that's now developed over the 10 years that we've been operating into what we call our strategic wealth operating system. It's a fully integrated system, wealth management, tax, life coaching, and it helps business owners, executives, people who kind of are asking those questions. Hey, I don't need to work anymore. I truly am free now. What does life look like? We help them ask those hard questions and help them design the life that they want. That's what we call experiencing your wealth's possibilities. So a little bit of a roundabout answer, but I hope that answered the question.
No, not roundabout at all. In fact, I'm sitting here thinking it's weird you weren't allowed to talk about taxes when in your prior position, because taxes affect returns. Taxes affect all kinds of aspects, especially in the financial world. It seems odd, if you will, that you couldn't get into that. No, you can't talk about the thing that's going to affect everything else. So congratulations on that. What do you do in your community? Are you active in your community?
At the moment, I'm taking a break from coaching. I've got 3 young kids, so I'm pretty busy just being a dad to those 3 kids.
Yep.
We like to play golf, play tennis, get outside as much as we can in the summer, and just enjoy this time. I'm sure I will get back into coaching and being more involved in the community in the next couple of years as the kids start getting into sports more.
I was going to say, you're going to find the lure probably like very hard to resist to say, if they are interested in sports and want to do one, you're probably going to find yourself going, maybe I can volunteer for that. In the meantime, you mentioned that you have you're a certified financial planner, and in fact, for those of you who are looking at this on YouTube, you can see the document, the certification on the wall hanging behind you. What other sorts of certifications do you have?
Yep. So certified financial planner, which is kind of the gold standard of our industry.
Yep.
Because of the work we do with business owners and helping them increase the value of their business and plan to transition it, I pursued and achieved the certified exit planning advisor, which is really about the technical parts of helping somebody successfully exit. And then also certified value builder, which is about helping business owners and founders build valuable, attractive, sellable business. And then earlier this year, I completed the wealth integration system training. So I'm one of 20 wealth integration coaches in the country.
Wow.
Which is another fun little thing we did. But a lot of it, again, is trying to challenge ourselves to meet our clients where they are and make sure that we can address any questions or problems that they might have.
I can't let this go by without asking it, because it sort of begs the question, what is a wealth integration system? Explain that one for me.
Yeah. So the wealth integration system really looks at alignment, right? If you're a successful entrepreneur, founder, executive, the things you do early in your life as you're starting to accumulate wealth are good strategies, and they get you to a certain level. But once you get above a certain level, right above that $2 to $3 million of investable assets, 5 to 10 million of net worth, there's a new set of issues that come up. Both, making sure you've got the right strategies to match where your current situation is, and there's also that question of values, right? When you have achieved a certain level, work might become an option. Charity might become more important. Figuring out what your legacy goals, what your mission is, and kind of what your values are become a lot more important than some of the other challenges that you faced earlier along the road. So the wealth integration system is focusing on maintaining an alignment between what's most important to you and the way that you're structuring your wealth, both for yourself, for your spouse, for your loved ones, for any organizations that you want to support later on through legacy planning.
I like that. I like that, actually. Tell us a little bit about your business and investment philosophy. Your values would seem to be implied, especially in that last answer, but tell us a little bit about your approach to investing.
Sure. When we're investing, we use what's called the core and explore, or the satellite strategy, right? Majority of our clients' taxable assets, those are going to be held in really cost efficient ETFs or direct indexes, which basically are looking to kind of match the market in the most tax efficient way. And then beyond that, we'll have some tactical, high conviction growth strategies in retirement accounts where we're not as concerned about taxes, or we might not be able to access the funds until many years later. We're going to use more equity focused strategies to help us drive growth. So that's really how we invest money. We certainly get into alternatives and real estate and things like that on a case-by-case basis, but majority of what we're doing is sort of the core and explore, trying to keep our fees as low as possible on the investments and achieve market level returns with some tactical allocations outside that.
You raised the question of fees. How are your fees structured?
We do a consultation initially, and then from there, once we've figured out what work needs to be done, if someone wants us to be investing their money, there are asset-based fees for that type of thing. But we do have basically a flat fee model, a retainer model, and then an AUM model as well.
Great. I want to go back to the community thing. Because I like talking about communities, because I'm a member of a community. We all are. Some of us choose to participate more often than others. You mentioned that you've got 3 kids and you do things with them. You go out and do things with them, especially in the summertime when you can get out. What other kinds of things are you involved with in your personal life?
I'm very actively involved with my alma mater still, Denison University. I run the mentorship program for the lacrosse team, where we help them prep for life after college. And then I'm also on the planning committee for Remix, which is an annual entrepreneurship conference that we hold on campus every fall. It's a great time for entrepreneurs to come back and learn from each other and come away from it being refreshed and inspired. So those are the 2 big things that I'm involved with right now in my community.
I like that idea of the remix. So you're bringing back alma mater that have gone on to entrepreneurial careers, and you're creating basically a Denison University network, if you will. Is that right? Yeah,
and it's for entrepreneurs, it's for alumni by alumni, which is one of the big things that people think when we're doing it on campus. Like, this is for the students, not going to get a lot of value from it. But there's some really big name entrepreneurs that have come through our campus that come back and share their stories. Everything for people who are interested in building companies to people who have built successful companies. We've been doing it for 6 years now, and it keeps getting better and better every year. So it's a great event, and I'm really thrilled to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic because I had an opportunity to serve on a board associated with the university, and the idea of bringing back alumni who have gone on to be successful to talk to the kids at the school, because it just gives them a real life encounter with real life experiences and fortunately successes as well for them to learn from. So I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask you one of those weird questions. It always comes up when the Powerball or the Mega Millions gets really big. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you turn on the radio, people are going, if I won the $1 billion jackpot. So I'm going to ask you a question a lot like that. If you suddenly had all of the money in the world, wouldn't it be nice? Number one, and two, what would you do with it?
So I would certainly support some charities that are important to me. And then, in terms of what I would do with my time, because I would need something. We talk about it in our business all the time where, we want our clients to have enough money to sleep well at night, but you still got to have a reason to get out of bed every day.
Yes.
And obviously at a certain point, my kids, which are fun, are going to go off and have their life and go to college. So, I do have this pipe dream about writing a show. I have a very, very, very kind of thought out show that I'm kind of working on in my spare time. Takes place in San Francisco. I can't share all the details here, but I would love, if I had all the money in the world, to buy a vineyard in Napa and really sit down and focus on writing this thing. Because I'm working on it now, but just very, very slowly.
Well, you and I have to talk off camera. Really we have to talk off mic because I was a taxi driver in San Francisco for a number of years.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
So I can understand where you get this urge and desire from. I totally get it. That is probably something that most people don't know about you. Are there any other things that people don't know about you that would be fun to share?
Outside of that, I think whenever I talk about this as an icebreaker, one of the other things that always surprise people is that I've climbed one of the tallest mountains the tallest mountain in the Katmai region in Alaska.
Wow.
And outside of my group that climbed it in 2007, it's only been climbed once before in 1977. But if you went to college with me, you've probably heard of it because it's called Mount Denison. So that's another thing that surprises people sometimes.
What motivates you to climb that? What motivated you to climb that mountain?
There was just an ad in the school paper. It was very similar to the stuff you hear back from Shackleton in those days. People looking for people. We're going to climb this mountain. We don't know how it's going to go, and who's interested. And I applied, and I was the only student that was able to join with a bunch of alumni. And it was a tremendous experience.
That's great. I have to ask you, because I've known some people that have done some mountain climbing, what was it feeling like when you achieved the summit?
It was great. I mean, we had climbed Mount Rainier as a warm-up the year before, so it wasn't the first big mountain that I had climbed. And I grew up. I went to boarding school in New Hampshire, spent a lot of time in the White Mountains, camping, hiking, climbing Mount Washington, things like that. But to climb that particular mountain, it was amazing. Just the whole journey. We flew in a seaplane, landed on a small pond, had to navigate up a glacier. Took us probably 3 days, and then we were just camping under it, just looking up at it for another day or two until the weather was right, and then we could finally get up in it. And then once we were up there, just to see everything, it was unbelievable.
Wow, that's amazing. What's it like walking across glaciers? I will admit that holds a certain fear factor for me.
Mm-hmm. It is strange because you're basically walking with like toothpicks, and you can hear the ice cracking as your feet are going, and you want to be careful not to trip, because if you don't lift your foot high enough, if you're tired and you catch a spike, you could go sliding pretty far and pull a bunch of people with you, because we're all tied together at that point. But it is pretty surreal to be walking across a glacier near the top of a mountain. That
is crazy. That is crazy. So that leads me to the idea of what's your idea of success?
I think my idea of success is to have the freedom to do what you want, when you want, with the people you want.
I like that. It's nice. It's direct and it's simple. This is a question that occurs to me, and it seems odd coming off of the discussion about climbing the mountain and walking across the glaciers and everything else. I don't know if this fits within that, but what is your proudest achievement in terms of what are you the proudest of at this point in your life?
Definitely my kids and my family. I'm very fortunate to have, happy, healthy family, great kids, great wife. And then I'm also very proud of Pleasant Street Wealth Advisors and what we're building here and the impact that we're having with our clients and how we continue to grow that family. We keep, we're hiring a couple more people, taking on more clients. So it's very exciting to kind of see these two, families keep growing. And I'm very proud of what we're doing.
Is there a phrase, is there a mantra, or is there a motto at Pleasant Street Advisors that you like to keep in mind?
For me personally, I like the motto of, it's a saying attributed to someone named Elizabeth King, who was I believe she was a playwright actually, but it is process saves us from the poverty of our intentions. And I think that is so true for not just me, but for anyone who's looking to achieve something, right? If you don't have a process behind it, you can mean to do something, you intend to do something, but without that process, your chances of achieving it aren't as high. So we try to put process behind everything. We try to help our clients find ways to put process, to help them achieve their goals.
Yeah, I think process gets dismissed a lot. I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to talk about process. Process is boring. in fact, I had a boss who used to tell me all the time, I don't want to hear about the process. I just want to see the results. But But I love that saying, process saves us from the poverty of our intentions. That is great. So who should be listening to this podcast?
I'm really excited about this podcast. We've got some great guests lined up from a wide range of backgrounds. So, people who are interested in living a full life, who want to hear how successful entrepreneurs or high achieving professionals or athletes and some of the best coaches in the world, how they've accomplished what they've accomplished. And again, how they've built process to help them achieve it. And people who want to gain insights about people who've had a big exit or who are building interesting companies. And then, of course, obviously, we're a wealth management podcast. So, people who want to hear about wealth strategies that help successful people tame what we call the burden of success, right? Higher taxes, complex compensation structures, more opportunities and more decisions to make. And they want to build lasting legacies, but not just of wealth, but of values. So I know that was a mouthful, but hopefully that makes sense.
That made a lot of sense, as a matter of fact. For people who are listening to this podcast for the first time, or maybe people who come back to this initial podcast to get more of an idea of who you are, what is the best way for people to reach out to you and have at least an initial conversation to see if maybe the two of you are a fit?
Yeah, so for that, there should be a link in the show notes. You can grab some time on my calendar. We can have a 20-minute conversation, just get to know each other and figure out if it makes sense to have another conversation. If you like something you heard here and you want more of this, but you don't want to book a meeting, follow me on LinkedIn, follow our company on LinkedIn. We're going to be posting a lot of content up there. And if you're someone who's experienced significant growth and you want to sort of benchmark your strategies, you can actually take a 2-minute quiz that we've developed. And there's a link in the show notes, and that will provide you with what we call our strategic wealth scorecard. And it analyzes how aligned your wealth is with your vision. And it'll leave you with some insights right in there as well.
Great. And I would urge you to do that. If you're listening to this podcast and you're finding some of what you hear interesting, do reach out to Taylor. This does not commit you to anything, Taylor. I kind of want to underscore that. I think a lot of people are iffy about, I don't want to call somebody. I'm going to get hounded. I'm going to get bothered. They're probably going to charge me. That's not true, is it?
No, definitely no charging. And we are not going to hound you.
Yeah, so reach out and have a conversation. If you want to think about that for a little bit, that's great. Do that. But what you can do right now that requires no thought is to hit the follow button. Become a subscriber, because if you are a subscriber, you're notified whenever Taylor drops a new episode of the podcast, and you can give it a listen. I would also ask that if you like the podcast, if you find it useful, please tell people about it. Word of mouth promotion is invaluable, especially in this day and age when all of us know there are bots sending us things all of the time to tell us, gee, we think you'd like. People talking to people, still way more valuable, still way more important and more trustworthy than anything else you're going to hear online. So thank you for that. Until next time, I'm Bill Tucker. On behalf of Taylor Nissi and everybody at Pleasant Street, thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. And we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us on the Pleasant Street Pod. Be sure to follow the show so you never miss a new episode. To learn more, visit pleasantstreetwealth.com or give us a call at 518-363-9363. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect those of Pleasant Street Wealth Advisors, LLC or Farther Finance Advisors, LLC. This content is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be considered professional investing advice. Always consult your financial advisor or another qualified provider with questions about your investment planning.